V, are you up? Last night was wild.
Last night was crazy.
The ACA party, the costume party is epic.
Roomiest, I dare say.
Okay, we can do this. We got this.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. You ready?
Bianca.
It is October 27th, 2019, Season 3, Episode 43. It is our Halloween episode. Did you see the bats coming in? Yes. I'm so excited. How's it going?
It's going good. We had our Halloween ACA party last night.
We did.
Crazy. If my voice is an octave lower, it's because I did too much karaoke.
Also, we had a costume contest, the winner being Kitty. Congratulations.
Shout out to Kitty. And also, we had the very special honor of seeing Adam the atheist at our party last night.
You know, do you think if I asked nicely, they might come on the show and visit?
I mean, he better.
I hope so.
Oh, yeah.
I hope so. That'd be a lot of fun. If you haven't checked out Adam, new channel, super cool, really like him.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely. Also, before we get into other things, I do want to say, check this out. Special thank you to Han Verhoeven. Han has actually been the person who's been sending in artwork.
I've been loving the different artwork that has been coming through.
Yeah.
So thank you, Han.
Well, so even the Talk Heathen that people were saying Talk Heather.
Yeah.
Actually, Han shot out a new Talk Heather. Let's see if we can get it up. Maybe? Not yet? Okay. We can hold, but in the meantime, we also have something else. Something else that was sent in. And because it's our Halloween special, there's our Talk Heather.
There we
go. We're going to light a candle. Because sometimes, let's see if we can get the camera in on this. I actually got I got a candle with my face on it. I thought that was really cool. So we're
when
lighting
one
that
has a
today.
Candle with one's face on it, one must.
I thought it was super, super neat. And also we had another thing come in. Sorry, I've been gone for 2 weeks. I went to my little sister's wedding. How was things?
Yeah, things were amazing. I'm told I didn't ruin everything, and because there's still people here, I assume the show's still fine.
I was watching. It was fantastic. You did wonderfully with Matt. We had the highest view count in the history of the show.
I saw
last
that.
weekend.
Yeah.
Fuck yes. I love it. I'm super, super proud of that. Something else came in that I wanted to share. So we have the original, the Book of Eric, but we also had another Book of Eric sent in. Thank you so much. We absolutely love when we get these things.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that. I think it even reads. I'm super excited. All right.
It's very biblical looking. I like it.
Yes. So before we get into calls, I do just want to say, as usual, Talk Heathen is a show that's put on by the atheist community of Austin. The ACA is a 501c3 nonprofit. If you like what we do, if you want to be able to support us, we do use that support to put on shows, to start other programs, to put into the community. You can become a patron at patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. We are going to be thanking our top 5 patrons about 2/3 of the way through the episode. And we also have a few open lines. We've got some theist callers, but I'd love to see some more. If you want to call in, you can call 512-686-0279. That's 512-686-0279. Are you ready to jump into calls?
I'm ready. Let's do
All
this.
right, let's do it. Landon in Atlanta. You're live with Eric and V. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing excellent.
Doing good.
Yeah, we're dressed up as the Mad Hatter and Jon Snow, and I'm digging it.
Oh. Well, I honestly just want to keep it short. I love you, both you guys. Love your show. But Val, I've heard a couple things from her, and she's definitely just a feminazi, and you're a dandy.
Hmm? What's that?
What's she's a
Oh.
you're a beaner.
Oh, got it. It got caught. See, we're happy. I'm dropping them.
Yeah.
We're happy to talk to people that we disagree with. It's honestly something that we want to be able to show, that you can engage with other people and you don't have to agree, but you respect the person. You don't necessarily have to respect the idea. But jumping out with pejoratives, ad hominem attacks.
Yeah.
What it does is it says, I don't want to engage with you. I want instead to call you names. I want to put down who you are as a person instead of discussing what you want to talk about. And it's sad. But y'all can do better. Let's take the next call. Who do you want to talk to?
Hiram helped us test the lines. Let's go with him.
Hiram in New York. You're talking to Eric.
Hello.
And V.
Hello.
Oh my. Well, okay. Well, thank you.
No worries. What did you want to talk about today?
I study Eastern Roman history, and one of the top, and so I had to study Christian intricacies a lot. And one of the questions I've been wanting to know, and since I know you guys have been tackling this question for years, is how do I go around knowing whether Jesus was a real person? Because I always hear from two sides that one is he's so powerful, and the other side is he never existed. Mm-hmm. How should I go around this?
That's a good question.
Yeah, we might have actually different answers. What do you think?
Well, we've actually been talking about that on the show a couple of times these last few weeks. My position on it is just I don't care. Because at this point, there's fine. Like, if we want to believe that Jesus was a real person, that's okay. That's not going to affect whether I think that he was anything more than a person. I don't see it as a point of argument. Like, I don't feel like trying to figure out if he was real or not does very much when talking with theists, because once you get to that point and say I concede, and I go, okay, fine, he was a real person, now what? Then the actual conversation can start about, well, was he the Son of God? Did he do miracles? Did he rise from the dead? All of these things. That's what I care about, not whether or not someone existed who was named Yeshua.
Yeah, pretty much that. So Yeshua is a name that existed. Definitely Jesus wasn't a name that existed. So if you want to be pedantic about it and say, did Jesus really? No. But Yeshua? Probably. There are probably plenty of people who were named that. There were probably itinerant, rabbis at that time who had, radical messages. And those things are not unbelievable. And just like what you said, V, it's, did someone exist that's the Son of God? Did this person walk on water? Did they heal the sick? Did they multiply bread and fishes? Did they die on a cross at Golgotha and then rise again 3 days later? And those questions are the ones that really matter. If you want to get caught up on the details, you don't have to. You don't have to dig your heels in on things that really, it doesn't matter that, a person lived and died. What matters is the claims, the magic claims. That's what really we kind of want to dive in on.
Right. To kind of revamp that Spider-Man and New York metaphor, there probably was someone named Peter Parker living in New York at some point. But just because there was a Peter Parker in New York doesn't necessarily prove that any of the comics were real.
Personally, I don't think he did any of that stuff. I just see him in the historical significance, and so I just was curious of whether he was real. If he was real, he might have did some stuff, but nobody knows anything. We cannot say anything for certainty. And so I know that there was many people in that area that had the same name. There was also like court records of people with the name, and so it's just an issue I've been thinking of because I just don't know, and so I come to the conclusion I don't know.
That's a good conclusion.
Absolutely. We wish more people did.
Yeah.
But we hope that helps.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care. All right, as we're taking calls, we are freeing up lines. If you want to give us a call, 512-686-0279. That's 512-686-0279. If you're a religious caller, I've seen you in the live chat. I've seen you in the YouTube comments. Why don't you actually suck it up and give us a call? We can talk about it. In the meantime, we're going to talk to Tessa in South Korea. Tessa, you're live with Eric and V.
Hello.
Hi. So I've been watching the show for maybe like a month now. But basically, long story short, my mom is afraid, absolutely terrified of not being spiritual.
Okay. Why?
So my grandparents are like fundamentalist Christian. I love them to death, but they're a little crazy. They believe in evolution, so that's nice. But my mom is a pagan.
Okay.
Witchcraft, the polytheist, whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be one of those things. I would honestly, but I'm not. I don't believe in a God. I love studying theology, but I don't believe in any of it because I've studied it to the point that I don't believe in it.
Right.
Yeah, I think we can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. So my mom is terrified of not being spiritual. She's terrified of me specifically not being spiritual because I'm like technically, out of her 3 kids, quote unquote, the most spiritual. So like when I was like, oh yeah, I really like watching this atheist show, she's like, oh my God, you're not an atheist though. That was her reaction. And I'm like, wait,
well,
I am.
What's funny is we've talked about it on the show plenty of times that so many people who don't grow up religious look at it and they go, well, what's the problem with saying atheist? But those of us who did grow up in religious environments, we know that when you say atheist, does it just mean you don't believe?
Oh, no, never.
No, it means I'm in league with the enemy. It means that I'm actively working to hurt you or to destroy things. Gosh, I remember at bake sales praying that the enemy won't ruin things, as if we're sitting there plotting to destroy a bake sale, as if we're doing these grotesque rituals because that's what the other side means. No. And that's why when people call and ask for advice about coming out, we say, hey, first start with the affirmation. I still love you. I still want to have that relationship with you. Because often what you have is somebody taking that I'm an atheist and hearing, I don't want to have a relationship with you. I don't want to care about you. I want to hurt you. And so starting with that affirmation is definitely a good way to circumvent that. It sounds like your mom has a lot of baggage connected to the word atheist.
Oh, you don't even know.
But what if instead of saying atheist, what if you just said don't believe?
See, that's an interesting point because I could literally join any religion and she wouldn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It would be fine as long as it's a religion, a spirituality, something that's like a higher power or magic or something that's not just humans.
Yeah, it's the reason why I couldn't join a Masonic lodge in my early 20s. They say you have to believe in something. I think that's a really good, if your mom is interested in that conversation, a really good launching point to say, well, if somebody doesn't believe, if you value spirituality, what is it about spirituality that you value? What is it that you think is needed and warranted and wanted? And because I think once you start to actually face those barriers instead of working around them and not looking at them, you can find that they're a whole lot flimsier than you thought they were.
Yeah. Well, so I came, I'm in South Korea now. I'm from Florida. Well, I'm from Texas originally, but I don't talk about that. But my mom lives in Florida. She has a whole group of witches around her. And so I kind of lived in that for a while. I came here. Now I'm surrounded by fundamentalist Christians, but I also don't like that. Mm-hmm. But for the first time, I'm away from my family, so I'm kind of figuring out what I believe by myself, even though I'm an adult. I've been an adult for 5 years. But this is the first time I've been this far.
Yeah. Well,
like, completely apart.
Yeah.
Take your time and just know that you're not going to change your mom's mind immediately, and you may never change their mind. But opening up avenues of conversation definitely help. So if they are up for it, talk to them. And if not, maybe that's just an issue that you can't talk about with them. And that's okay too. And as far as Texas is concerned, I've been to Texas. We're in Austin, so, we're safe. But we go to Texas every once in a while.
I'm from Amarillo, that city. That's the city.
Cheers. But Tessa, thank you so much for calling, and hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
I remember, it really does help to be by yourself and away from everything that you grow up in when you're trying to think about these things and figure this out.
Honestly, I think being by myself is still probably much scarier. It is. It's an entire, it's not just about the religious aspect. It's about who am I? What am I comfortable being there alone? And it definitely is scary, but you're right. It does give you that freedom. Yeah,
it's a clean slate. And it sounds like Tessa's doing a good job with filling that up with the right kind of shit. Definitely.
Let's move on. We are shooting through calls. So if you want to call in, we just opened up a line, 512-686-0279. We're going to move on to Patrick in Missouri.
Hello.
Patrick. Hey. Patrick in Missouri. Going once. Patrick in Missouri going twice. Patrick in Missouri, we're popping you back on hold. Wait, was that you? Are you there?
Hello?
I'm here.
Hey!
I'm here.
Oh, man.
Hey.
We almost missed you.
Hey, how have you been?
Good. What'd you want to talk about?
I talked to you last April. I told you I'm a business owner, own a pub. Mm-hmm. And I was worried about, coming out in the community about, being a non-believer. And when I did that, guess what? Somebody came into the pub and said, "Was that you on Talk Heathen?"
Oh, no way. Wow.
Yeah, really. So I found out that there is a community here.
Oh, that's awesome.
I reached out to them, and I'm now a member. And one of the fellows, and not only one of the fellows, has been a longtime customer of ours, and he's also a dreamer.
Okay.
Wow.
A part of the DACA group, yeah. And so I've gotten involved with those guys. And one of the things that's come out of this is we've started having roundtable discussions and meeting with people who are where I was, say, 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Where you don't know, you're stuck in this community of you're going through the motions with your faith and you don't really believe it, and you just you're questioning the whole thing. And that's we've become like this little secret sanctuary for people to come and talk over pints of craft beer.
Oh, I love that.
And single malt scotch about how do we get from A to B to somewhere further down the alphabet. Sure. And that happened because of your show.
Yes! That is awesome.
God. That's amazing.
I absolutely remember your call. Yeah.
Yeah, and that happened because of your show and because I called in and said, what is my responsibility as a business owner? Because to my employees, like I said, I told you, we were the first bar in our town to have a Pride Night. and what is my responsibility as a bar owner to my employees to come out about my religiosity and lack thereof and my belief. And it was a good thing that I called your show, and I connected with somebody that was here in the community that also felt that same way and needed a place to go. And now we have a place to go, and we have a discussion. Now, we're not overtly, I mean, it's an Irish pub, so, I mean, there's always, people say, well, you were raised Catholic, aren't you Catholic? I said, well, I'm culturally Irish Catholic. I always will be. I mean, that's one of those things that the nuns beat into you. You're never going to get rid of it completely. But that, you know, that doesn't mean I don't think. And so that's one of the things the Jesuits will make you do. Jesuits have made more atheists out of Catholics than anybody else. So,
well, Patrick.
But anyway, I just wanted to call you. It's been 6 months since I spoke with you.
Well, I want to ask you a couple questions, man. First off,
yeah, sure.
You're sitting on the other end of it. So for those people who are business owners who are sitting and wondering, you know, what can I do? What should I do? Dude, you've lived it. What would you say to them?
Well, first off, don't be arrogant about it. All right? If people come and ask you, you know, what's your belief, don't be militant. Say, look, you know, I respect your beliefs, and I would hope that you would respect mine. And I've had somebody, well, so I've had that you hate God thing. No, I don't hate God, because how can you hate something you don't believe in?
Ooh,
all right?
I disagree.
What?
I hate Voldemort. And I hate Sauron.
No, you know, and then, you know, it's always the thing. Well, it's not that, and then I misstated, really. I misspoke right there. It's not that I don't believe in God. It's just that I don't see any evidence for it. And then, of course, if you want to get into the deeper conversation, it's like, you know, I really started having a trouble with a God that allowed children to suffer, innocent children to suffer needlessly with disease and things of that nature. And then you can go down through a whole, you know, the rabbit hole of things. And I just try to read who I'm speaking with. And there's some people that you're just not going to try to reach. And over alcohol is really kind of a bad place to do that.
No, but, you know? But you're on target by meeting them where they're at.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. The key. Now, the other thing is we still do our Christmas coat drive and Thanksgiving food drive for the Samaritan Center in town, which is affiliated with the church. You know, we still do that because we don't have really there's not really what I would call a non-faith-based group in town that's doing that same thing. We've always done that for the last 19 plus years. Mm-hmm. And so we're still doing that. We're still involved in the community that way.
That's awesome, man.
But yeah, you know, so there are still people. One of my best friends is a retired Lutheran pastor, and he and I have some of the greatest conversations over biblical history. Matter of fact, we had a talk the other night about you know, the Old Testament and the violence in the Old Testament, and of course, my background's in history before I got into business, and you know. We came to the conclusion, you know, yes, the Bible is very violent, the Old Testament especially, and even the New Testament, because society was very violent at that time. But we also came to an agreement that the Bible is violent because the other societies, the non-Hebrew societies, were also very violent at that time. But today, people using the Bible to justify their violence against others is what's wrong. And, you know, so, but anyway, no, as a business owner, I think that you just have to be respectful, and you hopefully the people that you come in contact with will respect your position. And if they don't, and like I said, many years ago, when my wife and I, when we started, showing that we were promoting values in which we accepted tolerance of people of color, people of gender equality, things of this nature. And there was a rumor running around town that we were a gay bar, and then that we were, there, to use a pejorative, we were the N-word bar in town. And we just said, you know what? If people are not going to come here because of that,
because of bigotry,
then I don't want them as a patron.
Fucking damn straight.
if people are not going to come to our establishment because of that, then so be it.
Good.
I don't want them as a patron.
Good.
Awesome.
Good. So before we let you go, do you want to give that group a shout? Anybody that you want to shout out before we move on? Because you've definitely earned it. I definitely want to hear if you're comfortable with sharing what your bar is. If you're not, then anybody you want to shout out?
Well, let me have my wife listen to this conversation right here that I've had with you. And then I'll give you another call in the near future. I have to get approval from the boss before I do anything further.
That is very wise, sir.
Yeah, I want to tell you what. This is I'm on my third marriage, which has lasted 15 years. The first two didn't last a combined 6 together. So I've always learned. Make sure everything goes through the home office before you put it out there in the world. So
wise advice, my friend.
But I think she'll agree with me, and I'll call you back in the near future.
Awesome.
Sounds good. It was awesome hearing from you, Patrick.
Eric, Vi, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Or V.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry, I did it again.
All right.
You guys have a great day. Have a happy Halloween.
Happy
Yeah,
Halloween.
likewise.
Samhain.
Did
That
you
was
just say
nice.
Samhain?
Yes, you did.
Hat off, sir. Hat off. That's awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, you know what? I think that if you do have that ability, you absolutely should. You don't have to put up with bigotry.
Yeah.
You don't have to put up with, that kind of crap. It's absolutely something that I know we've said on this show before, and we'll say again. If you think that we are going to help you with bigotry, you're fucking wrong, and you can find other places to go. This is an inclusive place, and we're fucking happy about it. And I know I'm going to read in the comments, Eric is such a cuck snowflake. That's fine.
For all you guys, go over to Secular Sexuality and listen to the episode on cuckolding before you say that.
You know what? I can't help but think that somebody was really into it and went on the internet one day and was just like, aw. What? All right, let's move on to Fred in Florida, our first theist caller for the day. Fred, how are you doing?
Hello. Oh, and he dropped.
Oh. Is it because I said cuck? It might be.
Sorry, Fred.
Yeah, let's move on to Richard in Virginia. By the way, with Fred gone and our last caller, we do have a couple lines open. So you can call 512-686-0279. We have lines open. Have something interesting to talk about. If you're a religious caller, now's the time. We don't bite. But in the meantime, we're going to talk to Richard in Virginia. Richard, you're live with Eric and V.
That's
How are you
me,
doing?
right?
That is
Hello.
Good. How are you?
Good.
Can you hear me
really
all right?
good. Yes, it sounds a little windy in the background, but we'll do our best. What did you want to talk about today?
So a little bit of background for me is I'm studying psychology at we'll call it a Virginia university. And I study moral injury in combat veterans.
Okay.
So one day I got learning about all the scientific methods and the process of psychology and listening to your show for the past couple of years, I started wondering what would happen if you applied the scientific method, more qualitative research into the construct within the Bible.
Okay. How'd it go?
What I did was, with that?
Oh, no, go ahead.
All right, so what I did was first, are you aware of how a poster presentation works at a convention? Like I stand up and give you a 30-second to a minute blurb.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do that so we can talk about the construct itself.
Sure, go ahead, man.
And you both were theists prior, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
If I remember correctly. All right. So first we have to establish the theory. The theory is that the Christian God is the one and only true God, correct?
The hypothesis.
Theory posited by theists.
The hypothesis.
Well, no, that's actually the theory.
Why?
And here's why. Because once you have that theory, they believe it's true. So you have to put your mindset in the place of a theist.
But that's not
so
how
their
science
theory
works.
is that the Christian God is the one. Correct.
Okay.
But from there you build your hypothesis. So the hypothesis then is that the King James Version of the Bible is the only true Bible, and the null hypothesis would then be that God is, or Jesus is God, and nothing else is like God. Right? That's your null. Does that make sense?
It does, but I disagree. And seeing the look on V's face, I think I think they do too. So that is entirely dependent on the person that you're talking to. If you wanted to take that stance, that's fine, because there are people who fall into that subset. But just be aware.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
From a scientific perspective, you can't lump all Christians into one group. It's purely impossible. So you have to parse them out into what they believe in.
Yes.
Correct?
Well, I mean,
we talked about there's a lot of denominations.
Yes, but I mean, if you want to go with set theory, if you made that set, those people who self-identify under the label Christian, then you could. But yeah, you're not going to get a whole lot of valuable information that you can test out of it.
So applying that, we have to understand what religion is. Religion is the governing body of belief, right? In its simplest form, religion is the governing body of what you believe in.
Okay.
Correct? Can we agree on that?
For the purposes of this conversation, sure.
Yeah.
All right. That's perfect. That's exactly what we need. So therefore, the King James Version of the book is the doctrine in which Christians coming from the King James Version adhere to. So we have to go from there.
Assuming? Yeah, sure. We're with you so far.
So the next thing we have to do is define an operational definition of who God is or what God is.
Okay.
The easiest way to do that is to go to the Bible itself, since it's posited up as fact, and pull out all the I am, he is statements. Okay?
Okay.
To make a long story short, you get rid of all of the abstract statements like God is this when he goes through this, and you take only the definitive statements. God is the Alpha and Omega. God is love, and those statements.
Sure.
Then you have to apply them because they're definitive. Once you have all those out, now you have what the operational definition of God is. Then you apply your, right? You do.
Yes.
God is the Alpha Omega. God is love. You have that.
Absolutely. And just so that we can make sure that everybody who's listening is following along, when you're defining God this way, we're talking about taking abstract concepts and placing them in a position that you're able to work with. So we can look at numbers and say the number 1 is this, and once we have it clearly defined, we can put it in other places and talk about it and use it and make it something that's useful. But right now, where Richard is at is saying, okay, we're going to apply these abstract concepts to this God definition. And so if God is Alpha and Omega and love and peace and all of these things, how useful is that, right? That's why I'm laughing, is because it's at a certain point, it just becomes useless as a definition. It just becomes too muddy. But go ahead, Richard.
Well, it becomes muddy, but when you're looking at in the framework of psychology, you're looking at an operational definition, which is how you can measure it. So you can actually measure the beginning and the end from a psychology perspective, right? So if we look at what is life, I think the smallest measure of life that we can go to is life is perception, correct? Can we agree on that?
No.
No.
Life is what you perceive it to be.
No,
No.
that might be a bridge too far, Richard.
Yeah.
Well, why would that be a bridge too far?
Well, we're talking about applying scientific methods, right? And talking about this as though it were science. That's not a scientific definition of life at all.
Well, what's the scientific definition of life that we'd like to use?
When people talk to me about life, I don't view it as a solid thing, but a state of being. Mm-hmm. And so, so the state of living is not something that you can you can't hold life. You can't transfer life or do anything like that. It's just a definition that we give to that state of being. And I think
so it's a perception.
Well, I would.
I'm saying perception with a P.
Well, because trees are alive and they don't perceive.
Well, we're talking about human construct of living. Because there's different aspects of life.
Yeah.
Single cell organisms on up. If we're applying it just to the human species,
Richard?
that's the only way religion applies.
Okay.
Yep.
we are. I'm trying to keep this on the rails so that we can, make this, edible in a show. But I want to give you the chance to get to your conclusion.
Okay. Life aside, life is the beginning and the end. My basic behind this was that once you apply the constructs in the Bible, the definitive constructs in the Bible, and apply them to something else, i.e., in this case, if we apply that same operational definitions to how the brain works, we can find that people are actually talking about something that is perceivable, which then puts the abstract constructs in the Bible to light, such as God influenced the Bible.
Okay.
God did influence the Bible. If you consider that, the operational definition of God then becomes your brain. That perception is reality.
Yeah, I fundamentally disagree with you.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this. I am not sure I can jump on board, though.
Yeah, it sounds like you're defining a God into existence, and at that point...
No. I'm actually cutting God out of existence with this theory because, are you aware of what Occam's razor is?
Yes, we know Occam's razor.
In science, the simplest answer is probably the best answer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're talking to other atheists. You don't need to convince us.
Right.
But
what I'm saying is, from a Christian perspective, if you can apply all these concepts to something that is tangible and measurable, you can actually cut God out of the equation and give that responsibility back to the humans, the human brain, which is where morality is constructed.
And where that's applicable, awesome. I would just advise not leading with that. Making sure that you're listening to the person you're talking to. You can absolutely talk at them. If at any point along the way they disagree with you, they're going to completely shut you out.
Right. Also, just a thought, based on the way you're using words and the kind of construct you're building here, I think it would be more applicable to say you're making a linguistic argument as opposed to a scientific one, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page about that. Because I can see how this would be convincing for certain people if presented in, say, an academic paper or an essay or something like that, but it can't be necessarily described as scientific in the way you've described it here.
Well, it can if you apply the qualitative methods to it and you operationalize what you find there, much in the same way that you can operationalize journal writing in therapy groups, or you can operationalize what love is in research measures.
I think we're starting to get a little too abstract, but we appreciate you calling in, man.
No, not a problem.
Hey, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
I mean, okay, there was a point in time where I would have considered myself questioning and searching, where reading something with that concept, that if you define God as what we write about, and then we've realized that all of the definitions could also be applied to the brain, so why isn't God our brain? That would make me think, but I think it just got too specific, like just the King James Version, just this definition of God.
You have to if you want to nail it down that way, and unfortunately that's not how these conversations often work.
Exactly.
And it's, another thing is, and it's just a pet peeve of mine, and that is, understanding a thing is, takes so much, but teaching it and communicating it requires a different skill set. Often what that is learning how to communicate that thing in ways that other people can understand, right? So, kind of breaking it down a little bit, if you say, okay, even better. I know I've said it before. We've gotten plenty of emails from people who say, hey, I have completely defeated Christianity. All you have to do is take a look at the King James Bible, point to an inconsistency, and say, therefore, you got to throw the whole thing out. It's not how it works. There is no silver bullet, because it's very rarely are people reasoned into faith. And so the idea that you're going to reason them out of it, it takes more. It takes more. And the reasoning helps. Giving you the epistemic toolbox to be able to do that is fucking amazing.
Right.
But don't think that someone's going to completely walk away, because they do get tied to it. There's the gambler's fallacy, right? Is this idea, I put so much in. I just spent $2,000 on my transmission. I really want to keep this car. I can't buy a new one. But in 3 months, you're going to spend another $5,000. That's more than the car's. Just get a new car. You're chasing lost money with more money. I got to keep pulling this slot machine because I've lost so much, and it's gonna pay out soon. When you invest that much, reason and logic, you can tell somebody, no, each pull of the lever is random. They're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
It takes more. It takes that experience. But hopefully that helps. I mean, it's definitely a good kind of thing to think about. But we got to talking about the problem of evil earlier with the last caller.
Right. And
the problem of evil is another one. You could say, well, if you say God is loving, how come all of these evil things happen? How come there's suffering in children, in child cancer? How come there are people who never get justice? How come we find somebody who's been locked in a basement for 18 years who finally escapes? And they had to suffer this way. How can you say that there's a loving God that's looking out for them when that loving God would have had to sit there every day and watch that suffering and be able to stop them and not? And yet, it takes more because there's that, sunk cost fallacy. Thank you. But I'm rambling on. Who would you like to talk to next?
Let's see, who's been on for a while? Let's go to Ethan.
Ethan in Tennessee.
Hi.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hope it sounds okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
What would you like to talk
nervous.
about? That's okay. That's okay.
So, why I called in is I'm kind of wondering how to more or less talk about somewhat controversial subjects with religious people without outing myself.
Yeah, that's tricky.
It is. What's funny is I honestly did ask questions as a believer. And as a believer, I would say, well, how come it's this way? How come it's that way? I still believed, and they put me out, right? I stopped being able to go and spend time in the youth group that I was a part of. It was, hey, you know what? Actually, you're going to be put in the children's ministry so that you can help the children. It was slowly pushing out. There's a chance that, depending on the church that you're in, that might be very difficult to do. What's your goal?
Just kind of advocate for LGBT for one thing. I don't know how to explain it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I've dealt with the same thing, and it's whether I was trying to not out myself as an atheist or as someone who's bi or someone who's NB. It's a tricky thing to navigate, because up to a certain point, they're going to be okay answering questions, and they're going to go, well, why do you care so much? You clearly care about this a lot. And so, eventually, if you keep pushing, there are going to be questions about that. Are there specific people that you have in mind, and are these kinds of in-depth, intense conversations things that you have with them about other stuff?
In a sense, my teacher at school, I go to a pretty weird school. It's pretty small, and it's lots of connections, but she's quite homophobic, as I would put it. One kid, they were only there at school for one day because of some sort of legal issue that I'm not aware of. But so that student had said being gay is okay or something along those lines. And then my teacher immediately tried to change the conversation just to, since not talk about it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, here's the hard advice. You can't change people. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And I know that may seem tired and played out, but I do remember being at a time in my life where I thought, well, maybe if I find the right words, they can understand. It's not always the case. So if coming out as an atheist or wanting to have those conversations would be detrimental to your well-being, I'd say don't. I mean, you know, if there were door-to-door atheists, just like Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, we'd have a blank pamphlet. You know, it'd be, hey, have you heard that nothing? Yeah. And that's it. I mean, there's no torment, there's no hell that you're going to go to if you don't tell people that you're an atheist. So definitely don't feel like you have to if it's going to hurt you. Right,
exactly. There's a level of, I know a lot of people on these shows, and I do this too. We encourage people to speak out and to come out if they're safe, or to engage with people in these kinds of conversations. But that should never be something that you feel like you have to do in order to justify your existence as an atheist or as somebody who maybe identifies differently, or whatever the outing process is. That's not something that you have to do, especially if you're in a position where the other person holds considerable power, if it's a teacher, if it's a parent, if it's somebody who you rely on to keep you safe or to not make trouble. My thought, and this is something that maybe would be a step in a more easy direction, would be find the kid, not this one because they had to leave, but find the kids who might be hurting from what this teacher is saying and talk to them. You don't need to necessarily speak truth to power in the classroom if that's not something that you're comfortable with. But if you want building a community of people who are hurt by what this teacher is saying, and just making sure that they know you're there for them might even be more powerful. And even then, don't feel like you're obligated to. Right. You know, if you want to make that difference, I think V's got it spot on. But don't think that you are under an obligation to. Your obligation is to live this life the best that you can. That obligation is to look out for your well-being first, because that's the only way you're going to be able to take care of other people, is if you're taken care of first. So hopefully that helps. I wish that we could give the magic words to help, you know, especially being so young. Awesome. and right? I mean, I wish I could sit down young Eric and say, here's what you got to say. Well, I mean, as atheists, we were taught there were magic words. Yeah. So it makes sense that when we first start thinking about, oh, well, obviously there must be a phrase or a something we can say that will change this other person's heart, and that's not how it works in real life. No. But hopefully that helps, Ethan. And we're glad that you're watching. And it is awesome, you know, just seeing something and going, hey, you know what, that's not right. I know it definitely took longer for me. So cheers. You're on the right path. You're already ahead of the game.
Thank you guys so much for taking my call.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for calling.
Yeah. Right?
Good on Ethan.
Right. So this person, I think, called in before, and people were saying, oh, I don't know if this is a troll. No, I actually really enjoyed this person. Wounded Fox.
Yes, hello.
In Boston.
Cosmic Nihilist.
Hey, are you the person you called in last time, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Hey.
So what's
it's
funny?
Great to talk to you guys again.
It's good talking to you, too.
I can't express how much love I have for you guys. It's beyond words.
Oh, shucks. So there were people who were saying in the comments about that show when you called and you said, well, you disagreed about nihilism. And the funny thing is I saw that you left a comment under that video that said, hey, you know what?
I made sure to comment that I got that wrong. I heard you wrong initially. Yeah. And so I apologize for that, because you actually got it completely right when you first described it.
Well, cheers.
No worries.
It definitely is something that I wish more people were able to do, because it's absolutely okay to say, hey, you know what? I fucked up. And I wish more people did it. So cheers to you. But what did you want to talk about today?
I mean, you have to. I mean, like, if you're going to be like a real person, I'm not like F being a real man, you know, but like, if you're going to be a real person, you got to admit when you're wrong so you can be right again.
That's right. And then learn that you were probably wrong again. But what did you want to talk about today?
Okay. My one today is that it's okay. I'm going to start with a really short story. I'm going to cut this down major. All right.
Okay.
First of all, my journey to
just
my journey to,
as an
you go
obligation. Just as an obligation
Yes,
as a host, I'm going to try and make sure that we're steered in a way that we're engaging with you. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead.
Yep. All right. Very short story. My journey to nihilism was originally I started as a congregational Protestant, which is about as loose as a religion as you can get before you just don't have one anymore. And so a lot of what I was taught was that the Bible was an allegory. Like I never got taught that was the word. And to be completely honest, I was never that religious to begin with. I wanted to stay home and play video games. But I had a perfect attendance in Sunday school all the way up to like 8th grade. And then I had a choice after being confirmed of what I wanted to do as an adult in the church, so I decided to leave. And after that, like it just became a simple thing of like, it's so obvious that every religion, every single one of them is based on the zodiac calendar. Because way back we thought the sun was God, and we followed that. Like the sun stops lowering in the sky on December 25th. It stays there for 2 days, and then it starts rising in the sky again.
All right,
There's a story of the Star Child.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm all done with that. Anywho, yes, sir.
I'm just going to be pedantic.
I'm on the spectrum of Asperger's, so if I ramble, I'm really sorry
That's
about
okay, as long as you understand that I'm not trying to be offensive when I jump in. I do
Of course not.
disagree in a pedantic way, and I just wanted to plant that quick flag that religions start for different reasons, but a lot of them do come from observations about the natural world.
Yeah.
So for sure, I just would not. There's a flag that comes up every time I hear.
That was a very glib statement that I did. I oversimplified like crazy.
Well, every time I hear always and never, my immediate reaction is to be like, but always? So, yeah, but go ahead.
There is no always and never. It's like, good, bad, always, never, evil. Good, like they're all artificial constructs.
They are. Doesn't mean they're not useful.
The thing that I wanted to say is that, like, even by a lot of atheists look down on nihilists, and I heard multiple times from certain people that they consider nihilism almost like a safety net for someone who's just become atheist. It's like if you become an atheist, it's like, oh, I just figured out that God doesn't exist, or like I don't believe that God exists, so therefore nothing must mean anything. And it's like, oh my God, that is so not the right.
No,
way to put that. It's very insulting because I'm like, if anything, it's removing the safety net.
Right.
It's just saying that in the cosmos, looking at all of this, what the hell makes us special?
Exactly.
And all I can say is all that does is life, not necessarily human life, but life.
Yeah,
is important.
And it is because we've decided that it is.
Exactly. And it's kind of like built into our programming that it has to be, otherwise we die. And when we don't want to, because our programming says, hey, that's the end of the day, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, continue. No, you first.
No, I was just going to summarize what you were saying. The idea that nihilism is giving up is kind of analogous to when somebody says, oh, you don't believe in creation. That means you think everything was a random accident. No, that is a false dichotomy. Just because I don't think that there is...
everything is... It's like, do I think everything is chaos and it's all pinballs bouncing around nonsensically? Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Really?
But that nonsensicalness finds a way, and it works. That's what the universe does. Like, it finds a way to, like when we recently found these bacterium that can actually survive in cyanide, they actually use cyanide as part of their cellular structure, something that would immediately kill humans. That's alien life on our planet. So it's like, in the words of Ian Malcolm, life finds a way.
It does. It finds, So I do want to kind of summarize that just a little bit. When we're talking about nihilism, it is not this exact, it just because there's not a grand creator that imbued you with purpose does not mean that there is no purpose. It just means that was a bullshit idea in the first place. Yeah, it's the same as when somebody says, oh, well, when you die, you're going to get to go to heaven and you're going to see grandma again. You're going to see all your pets and all of that. It's this thing that you get sold on.
It's like, okay, but what are they going to look like?
Well,
when I get to heaven, are they going to look like how I remember them, or are they going to look like the way they want to be?
But that's a bit of a rabbit trail from this specific point. But I agree.
For me, for that, I just always say that because it messes people up when they're talking about heaven.
Sure.
'Cause I'm like, doesn't that mean everyone has to have a personal heaven, like their own personal heaven?
Agreed.
Like, because the way that you see people isn't necessarily who they are. It's just your concept of what they are. Like when you dream of somebody, that's not actually them. It's your
Wounded
idea
Fox?
of them. Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. If this wasn't a show, I would follow you down that. The reason that I'm bringing it up is to kind of support the idea that you can get sold on something that isn't there. And if you're sold on this idea of a grand purpose, that doesn't mean that it exists. And it doesn't mean that without it, there is nothing. Well,
yes.
Okay, I said that real poorly.
I would like to
that
know
nothing
your
isn't a
opinion on
bad thing. So just really quickly, when we decide that something has purpose, that's okay. That's enough. And that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have subjective, morality where people, can just absolutely justify bigotry and hatred.
Doesn't that make it more important because it's yours?
Yes, and we agree on it. We're building the society on it. And without us, it's not going to happen. And that's anyway, your question, and then we're probably going to move on.
My last one was what is your opinion on this thing that's been driving me crazy? There's I think therefore I am, but then there's I think therefore I am not. In a sense that if something was born and given a purpose and discovered that single purpose, you actually no longer have a purpose because you've been given this one singular thing. Therefore, any other purpose that you could serve is void. And I was wondering what your opinion on that would be.
So cogito ergo sum was a different point that was being made, but I definitely get yours, and I immediately jumped to, I know I need to get my fedora for this, Rick and Morty, right? There we go. So in Rick and Morty, a super cool show.
Dude, I identify with Rick and Dr. Manhattan too much.
Well, so here's the thing: is that there's a butter passing robot that's created, and the idea.
My purpose?
Yeah, what
butter?
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, the fact is it is so much better that without that purpose, you can do everything else. You don't just
anything
pass
you want.
fucking
Take the universe
butter
for a ride.
That's right. And I think that's awesome.
I love you, dude.
I love you too, brother. All right, man. We are going to move on.
I'm so glad you guys are out here spreading this mindset because so many people need it, especially around where you guys are. You guys have convinced me that I want to move to Austin and help you guys out in a major way because I think that what you're doing is such a great thing.
I see more than one person in this audience that made that decision exactly. And it doesn't matter if you do move here or not. We are your community. And we're growing.
Thank you so much, man. That actually means a lot to hear.
In other words, you are not special, but we love you very much.
Yes!
I hate bringing up that I'm on the spectrum, but, having Asperger's, you feel like a puzzle piece that doesn't fit everywhere. Not just religion, but everywhere. So it feels really good to feel like I've got a team. Somewhere.
Hopefully hopefully we can make this a world where saying I'm on spectrum. Oh, you're getting love rings from the back.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can make this a world where less people are so upset and afraid of mental illness that you can say, hey, I'm on spectrum. And that's just fine. We all have our shit. And V, you just wrapped that in a perfect bow. You're not special, and that's wonderful. You're not so
you're
unique.
Not special, which you're not a beautiful, wonderful snowflake, but you're not your fucking khakis.
That's right. That's right. You're not so unique that you are uniquely unlovable.
Or you're just as unique as everybody else.
Yeah. And that relationship that may not have worked out, that wasn't the one, because they're not that fucking special either.
To quote Rick Sanchez, when you know nothing matters, the universe is yours.
There we go. All right.
Awesome.
Take care, man. Thank you for calling
and on
in.
that, I'll leave you guys to have another awesome show that I am going to watch incredibly and enjoy because cognitive dissonance makes me laugh.
Thank you, man. Take care. sorry, when I hear about Rick and Morty, when I think about Rick and Morty, yeah, it's a great show, but it gets
But you need the fedora when you're talking about it.
It got picked up into this internet, atheist idea that, yeah, you wear the fedora, milady, the neck beard, and the whole, right? I vape. I quit smoking, and so now I know I can't be a vegan or CrossFit, or else I would just collapse into this.
Douche.
Yeah, this neutron star of douchiness, and it's bad enough.
Oh my God.
This is not Talk Vegan. Do not call us ethical vegans. William in Oklahoma City, save me from myself. Hi. William.
I'm really excited to get to talk to you guys. I've been watching pretty much from the beginning. I've got probably, the situation that so many of us have gone through. I was raised Southern Baptist in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a little town called Cleburne that's 30,000 people, 300 churches. Mm-hmm. So about one church for every 100 people.
Sounds about right.
Yep.
Yeah. Was considered myself part of that group for 15 years, and then spent the next probably 10 trying to rationalize what I wanted to be true with what I knew was actually true. And then I decided, fuck it. It's a lot easier to just admit that the things that I know are true, and the things that I can't possibly believe shouldn't be believed.
Okay.
And then it was a lot easier when I just let go of that, and I've been an atheist ever since.
Well, rock on. I don't want to be that dick. I'm just trying to steer the direction of the show. What did you want to talk about?
Well, unfortunately, the rest of my family is still in that very, very fundamentalist side, and my brother is. And I'm very close with my family still, but I'm in a weird spot because my brother has, he's a really smart guy. He has a master's in science from a real university, and yet he is a young earth creationist.
Okay.
He is a, Answers in Genesis fan. I don't understand it. I don't know how he doesn't just explode from cognitive dissonance on a daily basis.
Cognitive dissonance, for people who are just tuning in, is the idea of holding two ideas that cannot both exist at the same time. So X is true and X is not true. X and not X at the same time. Some people hold on to that, and it's. But honestly, that's why we talk about that whole epistemic toolbox.
Yeah.
Because there's some tool that he's using along the way that's allowing that.
His mentor in his master's program divided his time between the school where he was and the CERN super collider. He has, there's real quantum physics stuff in there. There's real,
we're actually dealing with quanta
science knowledge in there, and yet he talks about the arc and magic, and as though it's.
Are you asking? Are you asking how to talk to him, or is there something that you want to confront with him?
Well,
what's up?
We've gotten to this kind of point where, frankly, I just can't talk to him about anything of any real substance. Because anytime we do, it's just going down a rabbit hole that's going to end in one of us getting incredibly angry. And, at one point he literally called me a murderer because somehow the conversation turned by him into Planned Parenthood.
Abortion! Yay!
Couldn't tell you where that was going.
Which of course had nothing to do with what we were actually talking about, but it went there.
It always does.
And we went through a 3-week span where I was like, look, I don't have to continue this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can just see you again at our mother's funeral. And of course, that really didn't go very well with my mother. And she's honestly the only reason at times that I still have any sort of relationship with him. And I want to still have a relationship with my family. You know, he has a son and a daughter that I love dearly. And I mean, I'm not planning to have kids. I identify as gray ace. And so I'm certainly not having kids. They're about as close as I'm going to get. And I worry so much about the things that they're being taught on a daily basis. And I would like to at least have some sort of influence on their lives. And I worry, you know, my mom's 71. My dad passed a few years ago. I don't know how much time she has left. And I worry about, you know, when she goes, I don't know that there's going to be anything holding us together at that point. And I don't know how to, I don't know how to make that worth fixing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's hard.
Yeah. I think that the best you can do is say, I'm here. Because you can't reach into his mind. And I know you know that you can't. You can't force a relationship that the other person doesn't want because it takes two. And honestly, William, I think you can be damn proud of yourself that you're there. You know, to say I would put these things aside and just love you and love my family, you know, that's incredible. You need to give yourself some fucking credit for that, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, it's not that you're not doing enough. It's that you hit the limit. And what sucks is that you wish you could go further. We all do. But it's going to be up to your brother to decide whether or not he wants to engage. But you should feel comfortable saying, you know what? I did the most that I could. I said, I'm here. I want to engage. I want to tell you that I love you. And from there, the ball's in his court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we get together and we play video games all the time, but it's gotten to the point where, like, the second that, you know, some innocuous thing starts turning toward rant territory, it's like, dude, I've got to shut it down, or I'm going.
Yeah, and so in my experience, I've just called it right out on the table, and that's helped. I've been, you know, baited in by family members into wanting to have that conversation.
Yep.
And I'll just stop and I'll go, hey, you know what? It looks like we're going to be going into a conversation that I don't want to talk about because I love you, because I want to have a good conversation, good time with you. I don't want to go into this. And what's funny is even if they continue trying, it takes two. It takes the other person, which means that you can disengage and they don't have a conversation anymore. Now they're just talking to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my mom and I have uncomfortable conversations about this sort of stuff all the time. Like we talk about the things that I disagree with on the Bible and all sorts of stuff. And it often ends with her in tears and me, you know, going, God, I didn't mean to, I'm sorry. But at the same time, you know, we recover, we end up hugging it out and we move on. And then a week later I make her cry again. But you know, it never becomes personal. It never becomes angry because she knows that I treat beliefs separately from people.
Right.
And I've tried to tell that to him, and he just, like, he cannot separate beliefs from people. And it's like, I've told him so many times, like, dude, you are so much more important to me than your beliefs.
You know,
and, you know,
give that seed
I think your
some
beliefs
time.
are fucking stupid, but you are so much better than them. You are so much better than I think your God is.
Damn straight.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's real, but if he was, you know, I don't think Voldemort's real, but I think Harry Potter's awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, be better than your Voldemort.
So I would love for someone to take this call and clip it and send it to that aunt or uncle that you've got to sit down and talk to at Thanksgiving, right? That idea that we're angry and that we're out to hurt. The fact is, we just want to sit down and break bread with you. Mm-hmm. We want to create a world where that's okay. And that maybe you can meet us there. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to believe what we believe. We don't have to believe what you believe. We'd like to make a world where there's less bigotry and we want to call it out when we see it. But if we want to have this relationship, then we have to realize that we have to compromise in some places. And you can't compromise for your brother, William. You can't. They have to meet you there. But you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you want, join the YouTube chat if you're not already on there, and the Discord. You're getting a lot of love. So if you need that support, check those out.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, man.
I love you guys.
Love you too, man. Take care.
Yeah, I've got a cousin down in Austin who's a musician.
Get your ass down here and in the studio. Oh, dude.
I've been trying to do it as soon as I have some. It'll have to be sometime next year when I actually have PTO again that I can take off from work. But we've been trying to coordinate me coming down to hang out with him, and I've been wanting to come down to the studio for so long.
Well, I hope you can make it. We're going to move on to the next call.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Definitely.
No, you're great. Thanks.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah, sometimes you need to just be the bigger person in those situations, and it's hard and it's exhausting. There have been times where certain family members will reach out to me and be like, "How can I pray for you today?" And every time I get that moment of why?
Yeah.
And then I go, okay, all right. And I just tell them to pray for all of the kids at the border that Trump's locking up. And that ends the conversation very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. While I agree, I have to remember that this is a 501c3 nonprofit.
Oh,
so
shit.
We gotta watch our politics.
My bad.
As much as I agree. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. We are going to move on to another Christian caller. Dean in North Carolina, a person, I have no idea who you are. How are you doing, Dean?
What's going on, man?
Hey, I got a question for you, man.
What's up?
So I see these forums and I get tagged in on Facebook all of the time with apologists who are, going and wanting to have these conversations and wanting to sit down with an atheist. And yet we have a show every week. And Christian callers are so sparse that we don't get to have those conversations. What the heck, man?
I'll put the word out. I'll email all the Protestants. I'll send a letter to the Pope.
Could you please?
There you go.
There you go.
Last I heard, Pope was not a Protestant, but that too.
No, I'm saying all the Protestants and the Pope.
Oh, okay, good. What do you want to talk about, man?
All right, so 2 questions, if you have time for them. Number 1, what evidence would each of you need to see or to be demonstrated to conclude that the universe was created by a creator? And then 2, what theistic argument gives you the most pause about your atheism?
Ooh, okay. So let's start with the creation by a creator. Depending on your definition, I might already agree with you. Mm-hmm. And that is, if we accept that the universe had a beginning, if I meet you there, then the instantiation of that beginning is the only way that I can understand things. That there was a point where there was this point of infinite mass at the Big Bang, and that's basically the most we understand about it. But I also don't understand how you can have things outside of it. So Matt says universe farting pixies, or what if there was an unintelligent creator? Could that be it? If we want to say that there's a machine that creates universes, can I call that a creator? Because if we go that way, then Okay, I'll meet you along the way and we'll talk about it. But I think there's a lot of baggage in the word creator. And that baggage
No, I agree.
has.
I think you'd have to pare down what somebody would mean by a creator. So I'll take.
Well,
I'll go with
William Lane Craig.
multiverse. No, I'll go with multiverse and pixies as well, as Matt put on there. Like, what would you need to see if it were a multiverse or pixies?
Well,
I'll play the game.
No, I disagree with multiverse too. I want you to be honest.
Okay.
So the last I heard, you follow William Lane Craig, and William Lane Craig says that a creator needs to be outside of time. It needs to be omniscient, omnipotent, and what's the rest?
Omnipresent.
Potentially.
So it would be timeless, spaceless, immaterial, powerful, and personal is how Craig states it. I guess my question is, maybe let me pare down a little bit more into the question. Do you think that if the universe does have a beginning at a finite point in the past, that would give you more reason to believe in a creator than, say, if the universe were eternal in the past?
No.
Okay.
So largely, I've been talking a lot.
I guess for me, the question this sounds rude, and I'm so sorry because you're cool, Dean, but it doesn't matter to me. Like
what doesn't matter to you?
Whether or not the universe was created by something or not, that doesn't have any kind of effect on my day-to-day life. That doesn't have any effect on what gods I believe in, if any. I'm more than willing, for the purposes of this conversation, to say, sure, for this conversation, the universe was created by something. Now what? So I feel like this question doesn't get either of us to where we want to go.
Okay, so am I still on?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I thought my phone cut out. So V, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that it doesn't matter, for you, it doesn't matter if the universe was or wasn't created by God because it doesn't impact your day-to-day life.
Well, I didn't say God. I said created by something.
Or creator.
You would have to,
Creator.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
So as an example, the idea that this God has these qualities, right? Could we imagine a God that exists that did not create the universe? Sure, we can make that up. I mean, we look at the Greek and Roman pantheons, we look at the Norse pantheon, and we go, okay, not all of those gods were created gods, but they're gods.
Yeah,
so does that mean that
I don't even
saying
think you would need those?
Well, hold on. But what I'm saying is that for you to say, okay, I've proven that the universe was created. Okay, does that necessarily mean that you get to this Christian God idea? It doesn't. It just it's kind of sitting out there in space. V's got it. It's not super useful.
No, I'm not. I don't know that I'm positing a Christian creator. My original question is, what would you guys need to see to come to the conclusion that the universe? Let me put it this way: what would you need to see, or know, or have demonstrated that the universe was created by a God in general? Maybe not the Christian God, but just a God in general. What would you need for that to happen?
I would need to have some kind of understanding about how universes are instantiated in the first place.
Right. If we had an example of a universe that was created by God and one that wasn't, and then could compare the two, that might help. But because we don't have any other universes to look at, I don't see a way that I could be convinced.
And
really it becomes unfalsifiable from there.
An analogous situation where we see another universe being created by a God. Therefore, you're saying you don't have anything to compare it to, so it's just kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. What was the other thing you wanted to ask?
The other question is, which theistic argument gives you the most pause about your atheism?
Could you give me an argument?
And by pause, I mean, what theistic argument caused you to go, that could pose an issue for me remaining an atheist?
I'm still looking for it.
Yeah.
I want to find it. Like every time somebody puts something online that's like, this is the best argument for God, I watch it right away because I crave that kind of pause, that kind of thing that makes me want to think everything through again and deconstruct what I previously imagined to be true. I love that kind of thing. And every single time I'm disappointed. Every time, and it's actually kind of depressing.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things that we do, because we just adore this topic, is read up on not only apologetics, but what fallacies are. What kind of reasoning works and what kind of reasoning doesn't. And we use apologetics specifically to talk about where you can come into problems, come up against problems in reasoning. So could you give me a non-fallacious argument that we might be able to look at? Because thus far, there's a lot of real spotty stuff, man.
I got you. Let me ask the question to V first, and then I'll try and meet you where you are. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So V, you said that you're looking for that argument, and you've been disappointed. Now, does that argument have to impact you on your everyday life in order for you to believe that that argument is a good argument?
I think so. Like not a purely philosophical one, like a practical argument.
Yeah. So like you said, the other argument that we looked at, or the that we talked about previously, you said, well, it really doesn't matter because it doesn't impact my everyday life. So I'm asking, does the argument that's presented to you specifically to move you from where you are in atheism to move you closer to theism, would that argument have to impact your daily life in order for you to move closer to theism?
I wouldn't say so.
Or could it be a philosophical?
No, what I'm thinking of primarily are philosophical arguments. I take philosophy courses for fun, and I love philosophy. And I think that there are lots of practical applications to philosophy as well. But no, I don't think that I would have to personally be impacted in order to acknowledge a good argument.
Okay, that's fair enough because I was just curious about that. Now, Eric, you asked me to give you a non-fallacious argument.
Can I add on just a little bit?
Depending on what you're going to add on. No, I'm
sure.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
A non-fallacious argument that is in some way falsifiable.
That's in some way falsifiable. Okay. Yes. So,
actually, we should kind of define that for people who don't know what those mean. A fallacy is a kind of a hole in reasoning. It's not a good tool for using. Example being, it's really old, therefore it must be true. It stood the test of time. Dean, you're an apologist. Do you think something standing the test of time makes it more true?
No.
Heck no! That's fallacious. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily not true, but if it is true, it's only true as an aside. It's not true because of that argument. It's coincidentally true. So, and something falsifiable means you can actually show whether or not it's true or false. So a super common example is the idea, okay, we're just brains in a vat. Maybe we live in the Matrix. Okay, well, how could you tell the difference between this world and the Matrix? Well, they're functionally identical. So it's unfalsifiable until such time as we can determine, what this Matrix world is versus a non-Matrix world. It's impossible to show whether or not it's true or false. So when I asked you, and I know you know this, but I'm just getting this out for the audience. When I asked you for a non-fallacious, falsifiable argument, what I'm saying is I'd like to see something that I can use good reasoning for without falling into some of those epistemic loopholes, and I want to be able to test it to find out whether or not it's true.
Fair enough.
Cool.
All right. So how much time do we have, I guess is my question.
Dean, I want to give you all of the time in the world because I love these conversations.
Gotcha.
But maybe
okay.
let's try and cut it down to 10 minutes. Actually, you know what? I'll get you just a little bit more by thanking the patrons real quick, and then we can.
Okay.
All right. So our top 5 patrons today are Charlotte Crum, Desert. Oh, hold on a second. I did not reload. Let me refresh the page just in case. Nope. Oh, yeah. Charlotte Crum, Desert Heathen, Bethany P, Dr. Funkenstein in Ribau. Thank you so much. You are our top 5 patrons.
Woo.
If it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for those patrons, if it wasn't for the support, we wouldn't be able to keep this going. This is a nonprofit. If you like what we do, if you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. Dean, thank you for waiting through that. What did you want to, let's dive in. What is your non-fallacious, falsifiable argument?
So before I lay it out, you're not presupposing that all theistic arguments through the existence of God are fallacious and non-falsifiable, are you?
No, I actually point out fallacies and times when falsifiability doesn't line up all the time. Absolutely,
So,
like the argument from miracles, right? People say, "Oh, well, God answers prayers." Okay, well, let's test it. Hey, it turns out that's not the case.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you probably know which one I'm going to go to.
I know. I've been waiting for you to bring it up, man. Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. So whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, and therefore the universe has a cause. It is the Kalam cosmological argument.
Okay, Kalam gets you to deism, and I don't care.
Kalam gets you to deism if you avoid the fallacies and Kalam.
Yes, and the problem with Kalam is
how much time do we have?
Let's try and keep it simple. You're packing in this creator piece, and so when you're saying that there's creator and creation, what you're doing is you're begging the question. And so for you to pull that language out, it becomes a statement that has no value. The universe exists. Ta-da! For you to say it had a beginning. Well, according to our observations, that seems to be the case, but that doesn't mean that that there was something outside of that, because outside doesn't make any effing sense. Why am I saying effing? Because I'm talking to a Christian. Dean, it doesn't make any fucking sense. So if it doesn't make any sense, then, what you're doing is you're packaging something in. But you know what? Even if we just gave it to you, and we just said, okay, fine. Then what?
Would you give it to me?
Oh, yeah.
Would you give me the argument to cause?
Sure. Go ahead, because I know you want to talk about William Lane Craig. Let's go.
No, I don't want to talk about William Lane Craig.
What? You were fawning over him last time we talked. What happened?
Well, yeah, he's my philosophical hero, no doubt about it. That doesn't mean I got to talk about him every day.
What's up?
So I guess my question is, where am I packing in the creator piece in the syllogism? I'm just arguing. All I'm saying is, I am appealing to the causal principle that those things that begin to exist have a cause. What? I don't know how that's packing. I don't know how that's packing in God, at least in the first premise. In the second premise, I'm simply saying the universe began to exist. Those are both of those statements are religiously neutral, it seems like to me. And then I'm just saying therefore the universe had a cause. I'm not saying at that point in the direct syllogism, I'm not saying or appealing to a God.
That's true. You're right.
The scientifically neutral syllogism.
I took
religiously, sorry.
Yeah, my brain immediately jumps to the next piece that equates cause with creator and creation.
Yeah, Craig goes a little bit further in his expanded version.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're right.
Yeah, so
go ahead, V.
Again, assume... Going back to not having multiple universes to compare ours to, our understanding of how the universe started, and I use that word with question marks on it,
I gotcha.
we don't know that for sure. So to put that into a syllogism as a concrete proof, as a concrete thing to build other pieces of your argument on, is concerning to me. Because here, maybe I'll ask you, if at some point down the road we had enough evidence, scientific evidence, that maybe the universe didn't begin to exist, maybe we didn't understand that correctly, so this particular argument no longer worked for God, would you stop believing in God?
I would stop believing in the Kalam argument for the existence of God, because then even if the Kalam argument is removed, there are still other arguments I think would support that. Okay. Now, if you know, and I'm sure Eric would love all the time in the world to, you know, obliterate, you know, things like fine-tuning, moral arguments, resurrection,
love it.
all
it's
of
delicious.
those.
People don't call about that anymore.
I know.
It hurts.
I gotcha.
It hurts my heart.
Don't call about what?
They
don't call about those arguments?
Yeah.
I'll make sure to call back next week then. So I would grant thee that honestly, if there was scientific evidence and they demonstrated that the universe is eternal, then sure, I would definitely give up the Kalam, because it would be an empirically faulty argument for the existence of God, because you can't argue for a beginning of the universe and the universe actually be eternal. So I would give that argument up. That wouldn't necessarily mean that I'd have to give up I wouldn't have to give up Christianity. I just have to give up that argument.
Okay.
So
I'm willing to go. I'm willing to go to that length with regards to the Kalam. Sure.
So then why talk about Kalam at all? Is there something that is a little more meaty that we can talk about?
Well, I mean, outside of the fact that I like the Kalam, I think it works. I mean, I think it's a sound argument, but I'm just simply saying or arguing on the Kalam that one of the things that I hear, and I don't mean, I'm not trying to be disingenuous with regards to the remark, but I don't think that it's given enough. Well, that's not true. It's given attention by a lot of atheists, but I don't know if we can just dismiss it, you know, as a purely religious argument, given that it's religiously neutral and its syllogism. Now, we can ask questions about the extended version of it, in which Craig goes into conceptual analysis about what must the cause be.
Right.
And we can talk about, you know, the merits of, you know, is God, you know, timeless or anything like that. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I love you, man.
I know you.
But let's talk about it instead of talking about it. Or
okay, gotcha.
Stick to the things that we can talk about, because we're short on time and I want to get some meaningful dialogue.
You. I mean, I essentially got nothing else about the Kalam unless you guys want to bring something up.
So
if you guys got a roll, then that's all good.
My only question then for you, because again, that kind of goes back to the beginning question that you had, which is what would it take for us to believe the universe was created? And I was kind of like, I don't care. Like, if we want to agree for the sake of this conversation that the universe had some kind of beginning that was a cause with a capital C, as long as you're not making unsubstantiated claims about what that cause is, then I'm willing to grant that because it doesn't impact me. So my question is, if the Kalam cosmological argument, as we're using it now, without religious context or inherently theological bent to it, why, and if you would be willing to let go of the Kalam argument if scientific research was definitive enough to prove that the universe didn't in fact begin to exist, why is this your go-to? Why is this the one you come to the table with, presumably eventually to prove the existence of your God, if you're willing to admit that it could be wrong with scientific evidence, and also that it doesn't even have an inherently theological bent to it?
Yeah. It's my go-to because I think the inverse of what you just said would probably be the reason why I would go to it. I go to it because, one, I think the standard model that's been established through Einstein, Hubble, Lemaitre, Ford-Houston, Lincoln about the beginning of the universe is empirically solid. And then secondly, and this is just a personal reason. There's no objective.
I've got to stop you there, Dean. How is it falsifiable? We told you ways that it could be falsifiable by viewing other universes, but how is it falsifiable?
Yeah, well, if you could show that general relativity was false and special relativity was false, that's how the Kalam could be falsifiable because the Ford-Houston Lincoln theorem. Sure, because
no,
on that.
Dean, no, it doesn't.
Premise too.
No,
yes, it does.
So hold on. The Kalam came out a whole lot earlier than special relativity. So why did it hold water before special relativity? You're adding things onto it, but it is not necessarily contingent upon it. What you need to do is you need to show that there is a falsifiable way to test it, and it's not falsifiable. It's just not.
It is, Eric.
Okay,
Eric,
how?
Here, my friend.
How?
Okay. Because the version of the Kalam that, as you know, that I am appealing to, is the version of 1979 by William Lane Craig.
Right, but you didn't hold on
long after special and general relativity.
And I'd be happy to talk about that if we wanted to talk about that. But we specifically said we're not talking about. No, we're talking about Kalam basic. That's the whole thing that V was saying. Without religious anything else added on to it. What I'm saying is that is unfalsifiable. Would you agree that that's unfalsifiable?
I guess I don't understand what you're saying.
Sure.
Craig's Kalam basic is
okay, hold on. Before we move on to Craig, before we move on to Craig, let's wrap this thing in a bow. Right? The Kalam cosmological argument, the three premises that you gave, is not falsifiable. Yes or no? True or false?
It is falsifiable.
Okay,
Eric.
make it falsifiable. Please tell me how we can falsify that.
If you can show that the universe, on special and general relativity.
Nope. Sorry.
Is not.
Nope. Beep.
Okay.
Nope. Nope. It existed before then. So if it existed before then conceptually it could still exist without it.
What existed before then? Are you talking Kalam basic existed before then?
Yes.
Okay. In order to show that the Kalam would be wrong, if you could demonstrate that the universe is eternal rather than having a beginning, you could falsify the Kalam.
Okay, can we do that?
Second premise.
Hold on.
The Kalam.
Right. No. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to say, okay, you're absolutely right. I agree with you. And we gave that as an example. Dean, we're on the same page. We're on the same page. Now, how can we determine that the universe was either eternal or not?
Gotcha. So this is where we would look at the scientific data for either the eternality or the finitude of the past. That's what you would do.
The eternality? Okay.
The eternality, the infinite existence of the universe, or the finite existence of the universe. If you could show that the universe is forever in the past, it doesn't have a beginning, that it's just been here for forever,
okay,
then you obliterate premise 2.
Cool. How do we determine that?
And therefore, you would falsify it.
And that's why we're on the same page. How do you determine that?
Sure. Lawrence Krauss has taken this to task in A Universe from Nothing from 2012, where he argues.
He talked about the possibility of things blinking into and out of existence.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, no, I got that.
So if he's correct, and
I mean, we've given you conceptual ways that it could be falsified, but because we're unable to investigate them, it is currently unfalsifiable. It's just like the Matrix idea, right? I can show you the
give you falsifiability based on Lawrence Krauss, and you won't let me.
No. So I'm asking you how we test it, right?
I'm trying to give you that from Lawrence Krauss.
Go ahead.
In 2012, A Universe from Nothing, he argues that he argues that given virtual particles and their existence in the quantum vacuum through quantum tunneling, that the universe could come from nothing. Now, whether that's a good argument or a bad argument is still up for us to discuss.
Okay.
But that is one way, empirically, if Krauss is correct, it would obliterate premise 2 of the Kalam and thereby falsify the Kalam. Do you agree or not agree?
So, yes, I agree.
Okay.
I don't think I'm communicating well. I feel like the words that are coming out of my mouth are not having the effect that I'm trying to make them have. So I need to do a better job as a communicator here, Dean.
There might be a glitch in my, brain housing group. I don't know.
You know what? You would not be the first. You would not be the only one on this show. Let's try this again.
Message and let's chat.
Well, no, we need to record another conversation is what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. That's also true. I got to get down to Austin.
We will talk after this.
Okay.
But Dean, I appreciate you calling.
I appreciate you guys.
I'm going to find a better way to communicate what I'm trying to say. And if I do it off the air, I'm not doing it as a dig on you. But yeah, now it's bugging me.
All right, man. Well, you guys have a great day, okay?
Thanks for calling in, Dean.
All right, no problem. Later.
Okay, what I'm trying to say, please help me. And in the live chat, help me.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is we have come up, right when he said, okay, here's the argument, we came up with possible ways we could imagine it being falsifiable. Mm-hmm. We said, hey, if we could compare it with a universe that, wasn't created, if we can have those things to compare, then we can determine whether or not that statement could be true.
Right.
Right? Can we do that? Do we have access to multiple universes? No. Okay, so can you give me a way that we can test it? Okay, well, let's, he gave another potential way that you could falsify it. Okay, can we investigate that? Well, no. Mm-hmm. What we've come up with is the fact that we cannot investigate it and we can imagine ways for it to be wrong. Now, what is the null position? What is the position you're supposed to take? Is it I'm going to believe it until it's proven right, or I'm going to believe it until it's proven wrong? In one, you actually get a world where you can go without believing and praying to 10,000 gods every day and being intellectually honest. Or you could say, you know what, the time to believe something is when there's evidence for it, because I'm not going to sit here and fucking try and say, I believe in the Loch Ness Monster. I believe in aliens that come and visit the Earth. I don't believe in fairies. I don't believe in Bigfoot. And I'm not going to say that that's true until it's proven false. No, what you do is you say, I'm not going to accept it until you show me that there's a reason to.
Right.
And the null position should be that is not the case. Not that you're taking a stand there, but because for you to live an intellectually honest life, the time to take medicine is when you know that there's an effect, not to be brought in by snake oil, right? That's how we make sure we don't get taken advantage of. So, all right, let's that said, we are actually running short on time because the Atheist Vanguard is going to be coming on at 3:00.
Yep.
That said, I do want to try and get through as much as we can. Who do you want to talk to?
Let's go with Dwane.
Dwane in East Tennessee. You're talking to Eric and V. How are you doing?
Hey, yo.
Hello.
Good. Well, hey, how are you? That last guy was a little bit long. A lot of that was over my head. My arguments are more simple, so I'll just go with what I was going to say here. I was raised in the mountains up here, backwoods, Baptist. We were washed feet and did all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, I learned just as much about hell as heaven and all that kind of stuff. But what I wanted to bring up to you today, and I guess this is strange, but I'm going to say I'm 98% atheist. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I've been debating with my buddies in this area that will debate with me. They're few and far between. And I wanted to think of some things on my own that would make sense. So I started thinking, and you guys may have heard this, but what would Eden be like if Adam and Eve had never sinned? Would we have ever need to invented the wheel? Would we have schools? Would we have arts? Would we have sports, music? Would we all be running around naked in a big orgy? Would there be marriage? would he be looking down and saying, this is all hypothetical, would he be looking down and what would be his joy in all this? And the devil would be bored shitless. He has nobody down there in his, I mean, what you guys, am I the only one ever bring up this thought?
No.
Or what it would be like if, I've never heard it before. I just want to know what you guys thought about it.
Was it Dark Matter 2525 that actually did an animation about that?
You would know better than I. Do you need the fedora again?
There are a couple of people who've actually explored that. And the idea is wild and it's fun to think about. But it is so specific. And you might not think it's specific, but have you ever talked to a Christian who says, oh, well, maybe the very beginning is just kind of poetry and we have to interpret it a certain way? Mm-hmm. And if they mean it that way, then taking it literally, it didn't help there,
I guess I'm curious.
Right.
It's an interesting thought experiment for sure. And it brings me back to being homeschooled and taught creationism and how there were giant dragonflies that we could ride on and everyone was glowing so that you were naked, but nobody could see your private bits because you were just glowing. But I guess my question for you is what kind of impact do you want this question to have on the people you're debating? What's the point you're trying to get across to them?
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is just real briefly. I know y'all are limited on time, but when I was my mom's dad was a Baptist minister, but my dad didn't go, and he was abusive to my mom. So my brother and I would get down on our hands and knees and beg God, stop our dad from hurting our mom. Well, it never worked. It never worked. We were grown men and took matters into our own hands. So this is where I'm at. But still, it was so embedded in me. I'm almost 60 now that I'm just now able to say, hey, maybe all this was wrong all these years. And I guess I just, wanted to share my experience and let those that are like me that's had a hard road, getting out of it to give them something else to think about. That's all.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. It's interesting because in my experience, when you're the most honest, when you share that you've had hard experiences, it gives some people, some very dishonest people, the opportunity to write you off because they don't want to actually engage with you. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, human hands solve human problems. We can't wait for somebody else to come in and save us. We need to do it ourselves. And even if you don't move that last 5%, if that pushes you to volunteer in your community or be a better fucking person, then do that.
I see. Well, it's, here where I live in the mountains of, East Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, this area, it's very strong. I guess as anywhere in the nation, Bible thumpers or whatever you want to call them. And it's, every time, I at my job, at my family, I'm a decent local musician, and I have to stay hush, or I immediately lose my fan base.
Yeah.
And it's but I just wanted to share that, and they always say that God had a plan for everybody, and then my thoughts, well, if everybody's dancing in the daisies, hugging each other forever, what's the plan in that?
I don't know. I kind of like that plan, actually. That sounds pretty cool. Y'all can say what you want. I'm up for that. I just don't think it's real. But if you could show me it's real, I will leave this show. That will be the last.
Find a daisy field somewhere.
Right? Yeah. No. I'd like. Where did Eric go? He found that place where everybody was just running around in daisies having orgies.
But I do. But I'll hang out. But and I do remember as a young man, being out there, and they jumped and shouted and everything in church here, and it would scare the whiz out of you. And they would, walk back and look at you and hold you by the hand and say, "Do you want to feel the fires of eternal hell?" And when you're 7, 8 years old, and a bunch of adults hovering over you, with that stuff. It's pretty damn scary.
It's super scary. It's traumatic. I think that's something horrible that you would do to a child.
Yeah, it's child abuse.
Yeah. But Dwane, we have just a little bit of time. But
okay. Thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you. All right, people in the back, do we have time for the last caller? We do not. We do.
Okay.
All right. Cameron in Minnesota, thank you for waiting for so long. I'm so sorry, but we want to try and talk to you as quickly as we can. What would you like to talk about? Cameron in Minnesota. Okie dokie. That said, I love this.
Yeah, this is fun.
So definitely we want to give a shout out to the people on the other side of this wall who actually are doing the work to make this happen. We could not be able to do it without you. Thank you so much. We got love rings up for you. Honestly, thank you. Thank you. You're making our dreams come true. I want to say thank you to the live studio audience. And V, thank you for joining me. We got to be Jon Snow and who
Mad,
are you again?
Mad Hatter. Feeling frumulous today.
Dig it.
Yeah.
There was a point where I was talking to Dean, and it said, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," and that was great. And before anybody jumps on it in the live chat, yes, I am Latino, and yes, that would make me Jon Snow. Maybe? I don't know. I'm working on it. I'll workshop that, and that might be a joke that'll work someday.
I like it.
Until then, we've got the love rings up. And for those of you who don't believe, you belong here. This is your community. We're working together. And, yeah, it's going to take time. And, we're getting ready to move into some holidays where you may not feel like you've got a lot of people that have your back. But the fact is, we're building it. And it's not because you're sitting back, it's because you're participating, and so you're making that community too. We're glad you made it. We're glad you're sticking around. But for those of you who do believe, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. See you next week.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.